morning, everybody. You will notice our third party is not here just yet. And that's because he kind of just walked into the door in his house. So he's trying to get things sorted out so he can jump on. He always goes to the gym shortly after work. So sometimes it takes him a little bit to get here. So we're going to go ahead and make do without him for right now. I'm going to drop the main link to the stream and let people know on Twitter that this is going live.
I kind of have a theory that Mike, before coming on the show to like prep himself up, because he's got all that adrenaline from the gym, that I think he huffs his own farts. That's just me.
I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, I'm not.
I mean, if you want to talk about that the whole evening, like I have evidence.
I guess we could. I mean, how many tactics do you know to do this? Are there different methods or reasons?
Oh, there's so many. Oh, there's so many. It's in the containment. What kind of jar is it? Glass, metallic, plastic? That changes the odor.
I mean, if you want to use the containers for anything else, I guess I wouldn't recommend plastic per se.
I agree, dude. I agree. This is like Ghostbuster science in containing a ghost, except it's one of his putrid parts. So, just let me know. If he doesn't show up here like in 10 minutes, tonight's all about huffing farts.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. I mean, would you use a non-reactive plastic? I mean...
all that and more. That's a sneak preview, chat. We'll talk about that and
more. As we drop viewers. Like, yep, I'm out. This is a guilty pleasure I don't want to know about.
Yeah, but how offended are you if we just gain subs? Finally, someone is talking about this.
Somebody's addressing the real issues.
Yeah.
Does a guilty pleasure actually exist? I don't know, to be honest. I mean, what's a guilty pleasure game for one person may be a mainstay game for another person. So it's kind of hard to say, for real. I mean, there's some games that I've enjoyed that people have literally laughed and been like, okay, yeah, there's no way that you would actually enjoy this game.
I think if you look at it like food, you can kind of get it. So like, let's say you're a fitness person, you train at the gym constantly, kind of like Mike, you eat really well, but you love, Reese's peanut butter cups. That could be a guilty pleasure. It's something that you treat yourself to. I know it's not necessarily the definition here, but you could see how.
Well, I mean, it counts. It's anything that you would play. I mean, the more along the lines I was thinking of games that maybe aren't popular or games that you wouldn't normally like and even admit or be a little embarrassed. That's why I put stuff like Lollipop Chainsaw on the thumbnail and DOA, Extreme Volleyball, and stuff like that, right? Because those are kind of prime examples of games that a lot of people actually did enjoy, but they would never really tell anybody they enjoyed them just because of the stigma that would kind of come along with it, right? And I've never actually tried Lollipop Chainsaw. I've seen footage of it several times, and I'm like, you know what? I might actually have fun with this. But I've never bit the bullet and just bought and tried to find a copy of it.
I have it. If you ever need it, I got that over here.
Okay. It's a Suda 51 game, so I can't imagine it's like terrible. I mean...
no, it's not bad.
The main game I played of his was No More Heroes, which is sort of a I don't know if it's more of a cult classic following or it got a couple of sequels, so couldn't have been that niche, but I quite enjoyed that one. I thought that was quite a bit of fun.
Oh yeah. Well, Scepter Sever hits the nail on the head. He had said Panda has super suitors, but he films that. That's exactly what I said before. Like, this only applies if you have pride, of which I have none. So
that's fair.
You get to see.
And the dude was flexing by showing up in a tank.
Oh yeah, that's how you do it.
Zombie's like, I could give it F if someone doesn't like a game I'm playing, and that's fair.
And that's totally the proper response. That's how you should be.
I wonder if Panda likes Barbie games. You know what? There were people like NDRing that and Little Mermaid for a while. That was actually it was quite entertaining. And the Little Mermaid game actually kind of looked fun.
Yeah.
The NES one, that actually didn't look that bad.
I've got several Barbie games right there for Wii U, for PlayStation, you name it. Not bad. They're not bad. I had to wrestle them out of a little girl's hands and ran away from her at a thrift store. But, look, hey, survival of the fittest.
You're the person that takes candy from babies, too.
With glee.
And see, Zombie's like, I'm into Barbie games. I'll play a Barbie game. See? See, and see, he in the yard and no damage ran it. So, that was several years ago you guys were doing that. They were running the Barbie game and they were running Little Mermaid. They were all games that had the stigma of being for little girls. And while the Barbie game probably was directly aimed at little girls, Little Mermaid, I feel like if you enjoyed the Little Mermaid movie at all, you probably would have enjoyed the game. Right.
Yeah, it was a Capcom game. I mean, so they, it's still pretty fun,
Yeah, it's like one of those Saturday morning cartoon games. It's like the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers and DuckTales and all those. Mm-hmm. Those all had solid gameplay.
Chip and Dale's especially. I love that one.
No Damage Ran and Indy or Little Mermaid. Didn't Barbie get like really weird towards the end, Zombie? There was some weirdness going on with Barbie and like some odd difficulty spikes, which was bizarre for being a Barbie game. Like
there are occasions that they can get a little tricky.
Complete the Tiger Head Hill Little Mermaid for a million. That's awesome. I don't, and that's one of those that can fit in too, is Tiger Electronics games, right? Because everybody had them.
Well, yeah, I mean, we know that Cyrus.
Because you found it fun.
Yeah, Cyrus, he was on our Master Debaters show, and he was talking about how much he loved those old Tiger Electronic games, that they were just cheap fun. Like, if you don't have a lot of money, it's a game. A game is a game when you're taking a long road trip. So,
yeah.
I imagine.
And I don't know if I want to see the Barbie movie or not. I've been on the fence with that one because it looks funny and cute. But I don't know if I want to bite the bullet and watch it in the theater. I might watch it if it comes out whenever it hits streaming or something. Yeah, and Zombie said the Barbie game has spikes towards the last level. The record hopping stage sucks, and the final boss battle makes no sense. Yeah, I could totally see that.
Was he playing the NES one? Which one was he playing? Do you know?
I think it was the NES one. I'm sure he can tell you for sure, okay. But I'm 90% sure it was the NES
because
one.
There's like a Barbie Tomb Raider game, by the way.
It's on the middle station MDR 11. No, but I mean, the point is like, and this one kind of came about because my wife was like, what games do you play when you're sort of standing in line, right?
Sure.
Those kinds of games, because a lot of those kind of translate into guilty pleasure games, right? You've got I've got stuff like Angry Birds Pop.
Mike is here, by the way.
Oh, there's Mike. There we go. And Mike made it. There we go.
Hey guys.
We went ahead and got started early, and we actually jumped right into the topic, which is weird.
Oh, wow.
But
that's different.
Yeah, normally we do like the round table thing. I guess we can kind of pause for a moment. Everybody was kind of eager to talk about this one, though.
No, all good.
We already had people commenting, so I'm like, well, I'm not going to ignore that.
No, you should not.
So how has everybody been as we pause for station identification?
Mike, I was just telling everyone that one of the things that you do to psych yourself up after coming to the gym, because you have to have like a cool down and you have like an adrenaline pump. And I was telling everyone that you huff your own farts. I think I had told you this, right?
Yes. And I told you this in confidence, but then
again, you know me, I can't help but blabber.
No, I know.
He like does not know the word of secrecy or tact.
No, not at all.
So how did it go? Tell.
My crap done stink.
Yeah, Zombie said they were running the Barbie NES game.
Okay, the NES game. Okay.
So just like popcorn farts.
Not like the old popcorn farts.
Yes, nothing like that.
Something like that, yes. So Panda, other than crashing late for indistinguishing purposes and bouncing up and down like a madman, what have you been into?
I have been doing nothing but actually a lot of stuff for the channel. I am physically altering myself for an episode that I'm doing. That's also why I'm actually my hair is now growing back in. But anyway, fun stuff is we're getting ready for another Master Debaters, and Nick, you're on that one. That's coming up this Thursday.
Yeah, that's
part 2. 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's actually the better episode. So if you like the first one of you guys, this is the much better one.
Yeah, we actually have some static in the second one. It's not a lot.
There is.
We're pretty reasonable overall.
No, you guys
did have some differing opinions.
You guys were really what the show was supposed to be about. Was like, kind of healthy compromise where you can have it. Stand your ground, but try and find compromise.
Yeah.
But also, I'm actually getting ready to film another show called RetroRoots that's going to be coming.
I saw that. I'm actually really excited for that one. I'd love to be on that one, too.
Oh, yeah. I want both of you guys on there. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's kind of like if you took I Love the 80s from VH1 and you merged it with Mystery Science Theater 3000. That's kind of the show. So, getting ready to do that. So just
I honestly kind of wanted to do something like that on this channel, like go into... do sort of a retrospective on old video game commercials because there's just some weird ones out there, man.
Oh yeah, I know a lot of them.
Yeah, so something like that would be kind of fun, and almost that would be something fun to do as like a collab with somebody too.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it sounds like that's what you're gonna do with this, so I may need to hold off on that.
No, dude, I don't own the idea of nostalgic stuff. I mean, like that's the more the merrier, man.
What's up, Vinny? Good to see you, man.
Vinny!
And Zombie put up a couple others, and he said, if there are guilty pleasures of sorts, some of my recognizable ones have been Friday 13th, which can kind of count as a guilty pleasure because a lot of people find that game frustrating and just it's confusing and hard, right? Because that game's challenging at the best of times, even if you kind of have an idea of what's going on. And I vaguely have an idea of what's going on. Simon's Quest, which is straight up confusing. I mean, without guides and maps.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, confusing. Though.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing, it's not a hard game. Mechanically, it's much simpler than the first game. But it's a cool game. I've always thought it was a neat game.
Well, it tried to be an RPG.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole change in tempo on that. Oh, hey, Triforce Hunter. Good to see you, man. I need to stop by more, man. I haven't been by in a while. I've been busy lately. I see you pop up, and then I don't have time, or I get caught up doing something. That's on me, man. Big block popped up. But yeah, Simon's Quest is one of those, like, the whole reason that I think of for the change in tempo on that one is because the reason it's called Simon's Curse is because Simon got cursed after killing Dracula. He had, like, basically a wasting disease, right? So it was intended to feel more methodical and like he was literally on a quest to try to not die from this curse from Dracula, right? So it was intended to feel more methodical and RPG-ish for that reason. It was meant to feel more like a grand quest while still keeping sort of the roots and nuts and bolts of Castlevania alive, right? And I thought if you look at it from that perspective, it's a phenomenal game. It's kind of brilliant the way they did it. Fester's Quest I've never played. I've seen some gameplay of it, and it looks fun, but it also looks kind of frustrating with some of the weapons.
Fester's Quest has two camps: people who love it, people who hate it. So, like, you never find an in between. It's either diehards or people who just they saw like reviews on it on YouTube and they kind of just hate it, outright. But I know a lot of people that love it.
I was watching the Rampage movie last night, Mystery Science Theater, of that film with Josh, since I'm a fan of the game and film. The changes it made insulting. I have not. You know what? That's on Max, or what they used to call HBO Max. And I can't bring myself to sit down and watch it. Like, generally, I enjoy Dwayne Johnson film, right? He's sort of like a guilty pleasure actor. There's nothing of major.
And yet you don't watch Fast and the Furious. How dare you?
Honestly, that's on my list of stuff to watch. Me and a buddy of mine are like, you know what? We should just sit down and watch these. So I was going to buy the 10 movie set. It's like $100. I'm like, $100. It's like 10 of film. Sure, why not?
You couldn't get a better deal when you have Bliss, pure Bliss in a box. What's $2,000? My goodness.
I've seen the first one, and my first response was like, have you guys ever seen Point Break? And they're like, what's Point Break? I go, it's Fast and the Furious with a surfboard.
Yeah,
right.
No, but
only before Fast and the Furious.
Don't ruin it for me. Don't ruin it for me.
Yeah, somebody's like, that's what I loved about Simon's Quest. It took an RPG aspect that made you feel like you had a purpose, like an actual vampire hunter. Yeah, absolutely. I think Simon's Quest is a heavily underrated entry into the series. but I get why a lot of people don't like it. It's the same reason a lot of people don't like Zelda 2, right?
Oh yeah,
it was so different. They flipped it from being like an isometric over the top perspective to being a side-scrolling perspective, and then the sword's more like a dagger this time, and the combat's a lot harder. It just made for looking back on it, it's still a fun game, but it's so much harder.
I respect the hell out of that game, but I hate it.
But I've got a ton of respect for that game, and I did beat it as a kid. I ended up, and I don't know if I found this on accident or if I saw it on Nintendo Power. I ended up in the corner just spamming like low stab on the crouching stab move, and ended up beating the game that way. And my buddy's like, "Well, that's just cheating." I'm like, "Dude, it was like right there. I can find out another way." Force Center says Fast Request is very, very frustrating, but not as much as Blaster Master. Blaster Master is frustrating because it's a navigational problem and a confusion problem, right? Because it's all exploratory and it doesn't pull any punches. The game's just hard. It's hard in the vehicle stages. It's even harder when you're on foot. But there's something super appealing about those early Sunsoft games. They're all so good.
Well, and they had the Batman license, which they did some really decent Batman games.
I'm so confused.
The NES Batman game is amazing, but that last stage, honestly, half of the last stage is fine. It's very repeatable. The last part where you've got to climb up that tower, I can never. There's some really short jumps you have to do.
Are you talking about Return?
Consistently do.
Are you talking about Return of the Joker? Is that
No. I'm talking about just Batman by Sunsoft on the NES.
Yeah.
The one with the purple Batman.
Yep.
Okay.
The way it should be.
Which is a phenomenal game. It's a great game.
Okay.
But that last part,
you got to remember,
the last stage is just brutal.
I got you. Because you got to remember, for me, Batman, all the Batman games I played from Sunsoft were on Genesis. Well, no, Genesis.
The Genesis Batman came out, I want to say, less than a year after the Batman on the NES.
Yes,
and that's
it was tied
really
to the
good game too. That one makes a lot more sense.
It was tied to the movie.
Yeah, well, they're both kind of tied to the movie, but that one follows it a lot closer, and it's a little more approachable. It's still hard.
Yes,
it's still very hard.
And then I remember, of Sunsoft's Return of the Joker was very good, very good, very strong.
I haven't played
Batman
Return of the Joker. I never did get around to playing that one. I can't remember if I ever beat the Genesis Batman one. I remember owning it, and I remember having a lot of fun with it, but I don't remember ever beating it because it's kind of a beat 'em up. It's kind of a platform action thing, but it's also kind of a beat 'em up. It's a weird hybrid game.
It's a platformer of the. It's almost like, I'm trying to think, almost like a Bad Dudes kind of game.
Yeah, sort of. It reminds me a little bit of that and like Kung Fu.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of going back to
a little bit of that. Yeah, a little of that too. Yeah, I could see that
DNA in there.
Yep.
Vinny, what we're talking about is games that like you may not necessarily admit you enjoy, or like you're heavily in the minority that you enjoy, or just kind of one that you boot up. It doesn't matter what difficulty level, you just put it on because it's kind of just an indulgence, right? It's kind of like me sitting down and watching The Meg tonight. That's not a good film by any standard, but I still enjoy it. I like watching Jason Statham. I like gigantic shark movies. It scratches an itch, right? And when I've either just watched Jaws or Jaws isn't available to stream and I can't find a copy of it anywhere, I'll just put something like that on. Deep Blue Sea fits in the same vein, to go back into shark stuff. And I know a couple people in here will probably pop in and say Jaws for the NES is probably a guilty pleasure game because it's
Jaws is not a bad game.
It's a weird game. It's a little goofy and tricky, and it can be kind of boring in parts, I feel like. Because you have to do all the fishing, get the conch shells, and you have to go to ports and power up.
To be fair, though, what the hell would you do with a Jaws game, right? There was just one bad shark, and that's it. So, I don't know. I thought it was all right. I didn't hate it as much as a lot of people did.
Triforce, if you did that without a save state, you have done better than me, man. I could replicate every stage on that, but that last climb, man, I spent an hour and a half to 2 hours on it, and then finally put a save state at the top, and I ended up beating it off a save state. To this day, I don't claim a victory over that game. I've gotten close, because I got to the top of the tower twice, but just so painful. so painful. And apparently the Joker has the powers of 4. Yeah, he just calls down lightning constantly.
Right. Yeah. So just so I'm aware, what was the definition of guilty pleasure game?
I think basically what we were kind of titling it is like I put 2 games on the title that most people probably wouldn't admit that they played, would be like Lollipop Chainsaw and DOA Extreme. Stuff like that, right? Those are kind of like guilty pleasure games. Some people enjoy them, but there's a certain stigma that comes with them. And that goes for mobile games or just certain games that people just kind of universally didn't like. Zombie brought up Simon's Quest, which is kind of maligned in a lot of ways because of AVGN not really liking the game, but it does carry sort of a stigma of being a bad Castlevania game, and how could you like that?
Can I just start this off properly? Do you guys mind? I mean, let's just start this off right.
What's up, Fastback?
How you doing, Fastback? One of my favorite games.
I like it. I think it's fun, man.
I guess a guilty pleasure, if you will, is Rumble Roses.
Rumble Roses.
That's a great game. I have that on
I have it on Xbox. Yeah, I got it on 360 too.
It's total Cheesecake Fest, but it's a fun wrestling game.
Yeah, but you know what? You could say that, but it's a solid
wrestler.
Solid wrestling game
with amazing physics.
It's one of the few wrestling games I actually spent any real time with.
I would just take several bathroom breaks.
360.
But I spent a lot of time on it too.
A lot of.
Well, like DOA Extreme Volleyball, I think I had the second one, and I bought it on a whim just because I was huge into the DOA fighting series.
Did you have it in
which
VR?
Has their own stigma, right? Because jiggle physics are a thing, and found out that I really actually enjoyed the jet skiing and the volleyball in it.
Yeah, because once again, the volleyball in it was solid.
It was a solid volleyball game.
It was absolute. And I'll tell you another one, which is a guilty pleasure series of mine, is the Outlaw series. Outlaw Golf and Outlaw Volleyball.
Because you've talked about that one before. Outlaw Volleyball.
I just want to make sure I'm not having a stroke. Mike, you are in the dark now. You're aware of this, right?
My camera's going nuts.
I just want to make sure I wasn't having a stroke. Okay,
yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, no, those things are just getting darker and darker.
Yeah.
And darker, and then they'll brighten up and go darker.
I dim the lights for my guiltiest pleasures. I'll turn the. I'm thinking of DOA volleyball now.
Any good?
I'll turn the lights back on in a second.
Lie, I never picked it up.
All right, hang on.
It got kind of average to meh reviews, and I'm like, I don't know.
All right,
and then a lot of people were just were bagging on it because of the main character, obviously. Darth Mike.
Now, Nick, you love the volleyball game, but did you have it in VR? Now, the VR was Japanese only, and the only thing you would do is take pictures of the girls as they were laying down.
No, I had no idea there was even a VR.
I didn't have that either.
Well, your boy Phoenix has it.
I played the first DOA volleyball, but I didn't play the second one. I heard mixed reviews.
Language, Mike.
I think the second one was the only one that I picked up. And
which one?
I had a good time with it. I thought the volleyball was fun.
It was solid as a rock.
And when somebody kind of went through and explained the friendship sim thing, I'm like, that's a really cool idea to hide inside this weird game. Because there's all sorts of different presents and friendship meters and stuff like that you can do with like the different people that are on the island. I'm like, that's kind of a cool idea. I hadn't thought of it that way. They threw sort of like an Animal Crossing make friends kind of thing in there before, well, either right around the time that Animal Crossing was getting popular, I guess. Who's the perv now? Probably all of us. He break both fingers. Big Boy says he
playing
DOA for that one,
right
for the VR thing. Paradox says, yes, let's make friends before we deathmatch. That was the thing with DOAs. Nobody ever really got, like, killed in DOA. It wasn't like Tekken where they would almost, like, throw somebody off a cliff or anything. Everybody just got knocked out.
Yeah.
Scrambles.
Street Racing Syndicate.
That was a great SRS. I had that. That was a good game. That was actually a good game.
What was that for, Street Racing Syndicate?
PS2, Xbox. I believe it was OG of those. Like OG Xbox.
Celebrity Deathmatch did make it into a video game, and I think they tried to keep the claymation intact. I think they got the idea for how popular Clay Fighter had actually gotten. To actually make it into a game, because I can't remember if that came out before or after Clay Fighters, as far as a TV series.
Now, Scrambles had a really good guilty pleasure game.
Did I miss it?
Yes, it was right above Chris's. Bubsy. That's a good one.
I could never get into Bubsy. I'm trying to find
nobody could get into Bubsy.
But nobody got into Bubsy. Lying.
Do what?
Because how could anyone like Bubsy? That's what I want to know.
Especially like Bubsy 3D.
Scrambles, what did you like? What did you find appealing about Bubsy? Was it like the only game you had or something? Like, what was the...
Scepter beat me to it.
Yeah, as I think there's a couple. I will fully admit to thoroughly enjoying Sewer Shark.
That was my guilty pleasure game. I was going to say.
Sewer Shark. Last with Sewer Shark.
I still to this day will play it. It is a fantastically written game for what it was. Like I thought that the main protagonist, your guy who looked kind of like Michael Biehn a little bit. I thought he was great, and it was hard. And I'll tell you what, the Sega CD version was actually better than the 3DO version.
Really?
It really was.
I just remember they got so weird after a while because you were making so many turns to be like left, up, left, right. I'm like, God, what am I doing? A Dance Dance Revolution or flying a freaking sub? What am I doing?
Pretty much.
Vinny's is down for 2D Bubsy games.
All right, man.
Apparently, everybody universally hates the 3D one, though.
Oh, yeah, because that was...
There's a lot of people who love it. Big Block saying he liked it, so hey, maybe I'm wrong.
Born's like, how does Bubsy keep getting sequels? I don't know, man. People
apparently
see something in the
it's the greatest game in the world.
Or are they thinking revamping Bubsy? I think everybody kind of wants to start seeing some IPs come back, and and I'm kind of hitting that, and I'm back in that camp too, where if you're gonna remake something that was bad into something that's good. Remaking something that's already good, and leaving it as good, or ruining it doesn't really help anybody.
Anything in particular that comes to mind, Nick?
What's up, Ruby? Like things that are just like terrible that could be brought back.
Anything in particular?
Like
maybe that had a good concept but just didn't execute it right?
I would honestly say like a solid Superman game, right? Like Superman 64 is a terrible game.
I think they just need to make a good Superman game.
But you just make a good Superman game. Like
the Sunsoft Superman game was decent. That was the last decent one I saw.
I feel like there's so much more you can do with that IP, particularly in a 3D space. That there's
no, it was just... No, I agree. And there's stuff you could do now. There was an Unreal Engine demo of Superman that was out a while ago. And I thought that they were going to kind of move on that, and they never did. It was just
like, wow, I must have struck a nerve.
We're just goofing and gaffing, Scramble.
What's up, Ron? I'm not saying that all the Superman games before have been bad. There have been some that have been
mostly bad.
Have been playable, but like I played one on the Genesis. I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was Death of Superman. But it was a passable a side-scrolling beat 'em up. But it wasn't anything like.
So that was the Sunsoft. That was the Sunsoft Superman.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it did anything really cool with Superman as a character. Like you almost could have put somebody else in there and it would have been fine, right? So it didn't feel very Superman. How little distance I got into it, right? And like there's another one. I think this one was on Super Nintendo. It was Spider-Man and the X-Men Arcade's Revenge.
Oh, right? Yeah.
That was a cool concept, but there was such poor mechanical execution on a lot of those things that made it so clunky to control that I feel like that could be revisited and done in a really super cool way.
Wasn't there like a rumor forever that Rocksteady was going to do Superman? Like, wasn't that a big...
They were talking about it for a long time, but I don't know that ever came to fruition.
Yeah.
Like how a Nintendo representative back in the 90s said Night Trap would never be a Nintendo console, and then many years later it was released on the Switch. On that.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. Honestly, Nintendo has changed a lot over the years, and that can almost be a topic in and of itself of how much Nintendo has changed, particularly since the last head of Nintendo died, since he passed on.
You're talking about Satoru Iwata?
Yeah, it's just been a different company since his passing. Because a lot of those ideals that he held, his successor doesn't necessarily hold those values. And the Switch was kind of a turning point because they weren't really gaining the market share that they wanted, doing things the way they did with the Wii and the Wii U. And so they wanted to be more open to other games landing on the platform, so they're being a little less rigid with their thought process of what goes on the console, which has been to their benefit because they've gotten a lot more stuff on there. It's become a pretty dominant console.
Mm-hmm.
I personally chuckle when anybody talks about console wars because I'm like, the underpowered Switch console from the least powerful console from the last generation kicked both your asses, and it's still kicking your asses in the new generation.
Yeah, you can make the argument it's the best console. You could
just find that funny.
Yeah.
Any of the Lego games, I think, can count both as good games and guilty pleasure games because they're really, for the most part, they're not that hard. The one that I had the hardest time getting into, and I loved it at first, was the Skywalker saga that came out on the next gen.
That was good,
and that one's fun. But there's so many collectibles; it's just mind-numbing, and the skill trees, which I didn't need. They got introduced. There was just too much stuff that it was kind of overwhelming and unfun for a Lego game, and kind of turned me off on it a little bit. It's one of those things where you added a lot of complexity to something because you thought people wanted complexity, when all I want out of a Lego game is I want the sound of like smashing bricks and the stud collecting sound and being able to unlock a lot of extra characters. That is literally all I need to be happy in a Lego game. I mean, if you give me some fun set pieces and an okay story with it, that's great. But I mean, my needs are very simple for a Lego game. Superman on Atari 79 is probably the best Superman game. Agreed. I don't think I've ever messed with that one. I think I've seen some of it. Superman seems like it doesn't translate well to video games.
He's overpowered.
Here's the thing. If you could do stuff like Dragon Ball Z in a game, then you can do Superman.
Dude, you know what would be interesting is if
it's not that different of a concept mechanically.
You know what would be interesting is if instead of having difficulty levels, if you had a DC game that basically if you're Superman, it's easy mode. You know, if it's Batman, it's super hard mode. I'm going to pat myself on the back. I think that's a better idea than this.
Well, you think it's just like the character you choose and dictate your...
Yeah, because he's overpowered as all hell. So if you play as Superman, you're gonna, dominate. But if you're Batman, who's not a superhero at all, and you're taking on a major catastrophe in the game story, that would be one of the hardest.
Yeah, and there's some games like Vinny's saying, like any of the LGN games.
That's a very smart comment.
Made by company devs, and there's some LGN games I will give kind of a bit of a pass because they're not that bad. Like Jaws is an LJN game. That's not that bad of a game.
I don't think it's that
bad. No. I think Friday the 13th an LJN game?
Yep.
And that one's fun to play, but it's confusing to navigate and very difficult. But it's not an unfun game. I've played it on several occasions, and I found myself having fun with it for a while, but it's a little too... I never feel the need to sink my teeth into it too deep to really complete it. If that makes sense.
There were some decent wrestling games that LJN made. There was a couple of decent Spider-Man games they made. I mean, yeah, they had a bunch of junk, you know.
Yeah.
But
see, the Wii U, I think, is a totally underrated system, and you can almost say that's a guilty pleasure system because tons of people hate on that system. But
Wii U
I think it's a solid system.
One of the best. Yeah.
And the original Lego Batman, that's one of the few Lego games I got all full gamer score on. I adored that game. And see, Lego games are great co-op. Those are great.
That's how you're supposed to play with kids.
That's
absolutely.
how, yes.
Nightmare on Elm
Absolutely.
Street, I think it was published by LGN, but technically that's a rare title. Actually, I don't think it was published by LGN. I think it was published by somebody else.
No, it was published by LJN.
Was it?
You're absolutely right. It was developed by
Rare, though.
Yep. LJN did Nightmare on Elm Street. They did Friday the 13th, Jaws, Karate. They did Back to the Future parts 1, 2, and 3. They did Karate Kid, Terminator 2. The Uncanny X-Men was an LJN game.
See, Captain Algebra needs to be in chat, man. He's a big defender of LJN.
Alien 3.
He would know. There's a guy by the name of Captain Algebra.
All right.
He just pick up some streams and stuff like that. He's big in the retro community, at least the retro community I hang out with a lot. He's a really good guy. And he's big, and he's a big defender of LJN because he doesn't think games deserve nearly the hate they get. And in a lot of ways, he's right. They don't.
Back to the Future is abysmal. All three of them were terrible.
Yeah, that one's kind of rough. And Pear's right. The best Lego game ever was probably on the Wii U, and that was Lego City Undercover. That one made a great use.
Well, there's a lot of Lego games on the Wii U.
It was amazing. It was such a good game. I don't think I got on the Lord of the Rings ones. I think that me and Nicole were phasing out of those by that time. Wolverine on the NES was weird because you kept taking damage every time you unsheathed your claws, which theoretically makes sense, but it should have been like healable damage.
Right?
And there's nothing wrong with the new Lego Star Wars game. I just found there's like too much stuff to collect and too much in skill trees, and I kind of phased out of it after a while. I need to boot it back up and play it again because I was having fun with the general mechanics of the game, and I think all the rest of that stuff is mostly just like, I don't think you need it to beat the game. It's just kind of there. If you want to build it out, you can, but I don't think any of it's necessary to beat the game. I mean, there's certain characters you need to beat the game, and certain characters and abilities you need to be able to unlock everything if you want to unlock everything. But yeah. Yeah, see, even big blocks like, Lego City uncovers that way. But, I mean, I've got a couple on my phone that I play on the regular. Lately, I've been picking up, I think it's called Hungry Shark World Tour. And it kind of goes back to the kind of game that I enjoyed. So, trying to remember the full name. It's Mutant Blobs Attack.
Okay.
And it's I'll see if I can find some footage of it. It's just like this. It was on the PSP. They released it, and I think I actually went through the whole game on stream one day.
Oh, I know that game. I totally know it.
Yeah, but you gain in size as you go through the stage. And a lot of these Hungry Shark games and a lot of those eating games like that have run on the same concept, but they moved a bunch of them to mobile, right? So you gain levels, you get bigger, or you can pick up a different and bigger shark and things like the one I'm playing now. You're running around looking to get a high score and accomplish certain objectives on each shark, and it'll open up new stages. But you can also buy new sharks that are larger than the previous shark, right? Which gives you more flexibility in where you can go. So you're kind of getting this sense of almost RPG progression as you move from like, one level of shark to the next level of shark to the next level of shark and that kind of thing. And it's just mindless run around, eat everything and try not to die kind of fun, right? It's a high score challenge kind of fun. There's nothing more to it than that. Another one is Angry Birds Pop. I have a lot of fun with those because I like
Angry Birds Pop.
Yeah, think Bubble Bobble where you shoot the pellets up and you pop, you hit it and you connect to 2 or 3 and it'll pop in a sequence.
Okay.
Right. So you're popping like various different bubbles to try to collapse things down on the stage. Right. It's a variant on like Breakout kind of gameplay. Right. But they add like different modifiers. Like some of them are covered in like a film so you can't see what color they are. So you take sort of a blind shot or an educated guess on whether or not it'll connect. Sometimes there's things where they have to be popped multiple times, or blockers or this, that, and the other as you progress through it. And it gets more and more complicated. And they're trying to sell you power-ups to make the game easier, but you can, all the stages that I played through, which is, I think it's only like less than 200 stages I've gotten through out of like 4,000 stages.
Right.
I've not necessarily needed to buy a power up. Every now and then they'll give you like a ×2 multiplier or something, or a different bird that has different abilities, because some of them can break things in a line, some of them break things going up, some of them do like different star pops, some of them steal different like items off the stage and stuff like that. It's just a fun kind of time waster game, that I'll sit down and play. And those are the kind of games that I'll sit down and play on my phone. Right? Because I don't want to spend any money on them anymore. I've gone through the phase where I've played stuff like AFK Arena and Summoner's War and all that, where you get your monsters and you level them up and you get items for them and you equip them and all that, and it's sort of like an absentee RPG, kind of thing.
Mike, did you mention a game?
I had mentioned Sewer Shark.
It's like Bust a Move, only it's Angry Birds.
But another series, and sometimes when I'm just kind of sitting on a call or got something mindless going on, one of my very guilty pleasures is the original Dooms.
I don't know if that's a guilty pleasure. I mean, Doom is one of the most
It is.
Yeah, I don't know if I call that a guilty pleasure. I mean, if you said
it's
Mighty Doom for mobile, it's a guilty pleasure.
Well,
and
but
not
like
a very well designed one from
Doom
a gameplay
60.
perspective.
I mean, Doom 64 was not very heavily critically acclaimed.
No, Doom 64 was actually a good game. The problem with the N64 version was in the dark.
Yeah, I
try it on Steam, man.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that when they put it out again, it's much better. But on the N64, it's black.
I mean, if we're talking about games that are not good, well, but see, your definition of good is different. So one of my other guilty pleasure games was Toe Jam and Earl 3, which people did not like. In fact,
I would argue Toe Jam and Earl, period. The first one's kind of a rough ride if you have bad luck.
I would argue. I mean, I've interviewed Greg Thomas. He didn't even like the game, but I had to convince him that it was a good game. The guy who made it. So, if we're talking about
did he make the third one?
Yeah,
and he didn't like it.
No, because it wasn't Sega. Sega made them do something different instead of going back to the old formula. So he was not a fan of taking it 3D, but he made it work. Mm-hmm. And he made a game that I enjoyed. Many people, it did not get great review. I think my review was the best review of it when I reviewed it for NLG back in the days. So maybe that one.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Tomb Raider on the N-Gage, but wasn't that just Tomb Raider?
I don't know. I never had an N-Gage to mess with it. That whole device was weird to me because there were so many handhelds around that time that one didn't grab my attention very much. even though it was supposed to double as a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, as in life, as I found out that you had to basically remove the battery to change out the game. That seemed like a really super bad design choice.
That was. They did end up bringing a second version out that fixed that.
Yeah, I think Sir X-Man loves the N-Gage. He's a big fan of that thing.
He is.
We came out on the Gizmondo. Wasn't that the... God, that wasn't the N-Gage. That was something else. That was a Nokia thing.
Yeah, the Gizmondo was a...
The Gizmondo was its own thing, right?
It was, and it did not make it. It never came out. It was actually Tiger Electronics. Or Tiger Telematics, whatever they call themselves. It was a Tiger
Telematics.
Yeah.
And I would argue anything on the Virtual Boy. Like the Virtual Boy period.
Yeah.
It's saying it was released. I mean, this is Wikipedia, so that's garbage. But it was released in the UK, Sweden, and US starting in March 2005.
And then they went bankrupt like right away.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I don't trust Wikipedia for anything. I was just.
Yeah. I remember. So
I find Wikipedia is a good starting point for most things. Like a lot of my videos, I'll get a starting point out of going to Wikipedia or a wiki fandom page as a starting point, both of those, and then try to correlate it against other sites. I do a lot of work on Wikipedia, and for the most part, Wikipedia does a good job of keeping its content maintained. Like the crowd that supports and edits on Wikipedia usually tries to do as solid of a job as they can.
I think, theoretically, yes. I mean, it did come out. I mean, people tried to sell it. But they went bankrupt so quickly that it just wasn't out long. And I remember, I've got pictures. I show these every once in a while. I have pictures from E3 in 2005 when they were about the time when they were.
I like the new logo. I hadn't really got a good close-up look at it until now. That's great.
Yeah, it was 05. And they had a big, giant booth, Gizmondo. They had a big DJ. I remember walking through the booth. EA was making games for it. There was a FIFA coming out on it and all that stuff. There were more people that throughout the show, throughout E3, there were more people that worked in the booth that were ever in the booth looking at the handheld.
Liking these games might constitute a war crime. I'm not sure it's a guilty pleasure so much as it's a war crime.
And Aries brings up such a great point. By the way, how are you doing, Aries? I can't believe I forgot to say this. Literally the entire Virtual Boy library for me and the Virtual Boy itself.
That's why I mentioned the Virtual Boy as a guilty pleasure, and you guys just kind of skipped right by it. I did that slightly for you and slightly to get you to talk about it because I know you own one and I knew you really enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I'll let Mike finish and then I'll go on and on about that.
No, I was done.
I still to this day don't understand the hate for Virtual Boy other than that some people get headaches from it. But if you didn't get headaches, the games are actually really good.
I got really bad eye strain from it the one time I played it, and it was very awkward to play because of the way you had to position on the table and kind of had to bend over. Yeah. It was very uncomfortable
I'm used to that.
To play. So for me, it kind of hit two strikes, right? One, it felt like I was trying to stare into a scanner, like to scan groceries, which was painful. And two, I felt hunched over. And for me being so short and feeling hunched over and scrunched up was weird and wrong in a lot of ways. So it was kind of like two out of three strikes. So it didn't really matter what the game was. It was on it. I was already kind of predisposed to not want to play it because the whole system was just uncomfortable for me. Right.
What did you think about the controller, though? At least you have to say that controller.
The controller kind of felt like a more ergonomic version of the NES controller. So
what it was doing, dude, like you could see how that turned into the N60, like you could see that evolution.
I don't know. I only remember the D-pad and the two buttons, and I remember it almost being like almost strapped into the harness, right? Because the one I played, it was like locked into the feet of the unit.
No,
and it might have been because it was a demo unit at like Walmart or something like that where I played it, right?
You should look at the controller again one day and just. I would take a look at that.
I need to do a video on it. Period. Because I kind of wanted to do one on like consoles that didn't quite make it as well, or ones that didn't do well, and the Virtual Boy fits into that, right? Because commercially it did terrible.
Yeah.
Regardless of who likes it, commercially it did abysmal. Right. I think it had maybe 13 to 20 games total, and that was it. It was done.
Scepter asks, have you played Hyper Fighting on the VB Panda? I actually have. I played it at a convention, and it was amazing. Like, I think if you can get past being hunched over, if you can get past the red lasers that are definitely burning a hole in your retina and your brain, if you can get past all that, the 3D is extremely impressive. The games are fun, and the controller is great. So,
Nintendo's always been good at controls, though. I mean, I know a lot of people bag on the N64, but for what they were trying to do was the best compromise of what they needed to do with that console. Now, people with larger hands were going to have a hard time using the analog stick on there because it was going to cramp your hands against the right side. So I got why people didn't like it for that reason, but that was never a problem for me. I thought the GameCube controller was pretty inspired. The only thing it lacked was a second analog stick, but that wasn't super standard at the time.
It was.
So I can kind of excuse it a little bit for them not doing it. But going from like playing an Xbox primarily to playing a GameCube was a bit of a struggle.
Well, it had that little tiny one.
Well, it was only certain games that it was a problem. Like Metroid Prime, playing it on the Switch was a vastly better experience because of the second analog stick.
Yep.
Right? Than playing it on the GameCube, where I kept having to lock on and everything was awkward to view, and I'd always lock onto something weird because I was.
Yeah, if you came from other shooters, it would feel weird. I did, so for me it was amazing.
But having come from something like Halo into that,
right,
it was rough all the way around. I did beat that this year, so I beat the remaster version of it, and it's a great game. It fixed every minor issue I had that relatively killed me in the game, because originally I stopped at the Omega Pirate on that one because I just could not do the lock-on properly. I couldn't do the visor properly. I couldn't keep track of everything and manage to navigate that controller effectively.
Yeah,
it just became like a deal breaker at that point. Every other fight I could handle up until that one, and that one just kind of broke me because I couldn't figure out how to target it to break the pieces of armor and then deal with the ads and everything like that. And a combination of having dual analog sticks and just being, I guess, a little bit older and having played more retro games on a regular, I was looking for more patterns this time and found patterns and repeatable things that helped me mechanically make it through that game easier, right, on that fight. So it made the fight easier, having had a lot of experience with earlier games that focus heavily on pattern recognition, right, and repeatable tasks. And there's been a big turn back to that, with the Souls games. And up until the last couple of years, you could have called the Souls games a guilty pleasure game, right?
Yeah.
And now they've gotten so popular that now they're just mainstream now. But for a while, they were heavy. Like in the PS3 days, when the first Demon Souls game came out, that was a niche guilty pleasure game for sure. Because nobody was playing those except for pure masochists or people that missed,
Was it like that in Japan? Would that have been considered that way in Japan?
I think so, because I don't think it sold more than a couple 100,000 copies. Okay. It was enough to get it a sequel, but it wasn't doing big numbers.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't even doing Metroid numbers, I don't think. I haven't done heavy research on it, but I don't remember the first one selling that well or being that well known.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did Dark Souls, and people started to kind of understand what they were trying to do. And then by the time Bloodborne hit, the lid had just completely blown off the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? And if the Souls series itself, the Dark Souls series wasn't your entry into it, on most people's entry was Bloodborne. Right? They got into Bloodborne and then went back and started playing the others and went, holy crap, why haven't I played these before?
Right.
Because they're masochistic and brutally hard. That's why you weren't down for that. You weren't there for that at that time.
Oh my God. I just totally forgot of one of my favorite guilty pleasure games. I'll just get the exact title. Yeah, Ride to Hell Retribution.
Oh,
I think I've heard about that game.
I've heard of that game.
You've never played it?
I don't think I've heard anything good about that game.
Oh, I haven't. I bought it day one. I love that game. It's so fantastic. And the reason what got me thinking about that game was, have you guys played the Fast and Furious Xbox game? I think it was also on PC.
I've not played anything related to.
The best thing about that game is
it's the most series, so I just didn't dive into it.
Well, the best thing about those games is that that game in particular is that it's the most phoned in acting you will ever see in a game. Like, there's a tank, and Vin Diesel's like, "Hey, we got to get that tank," and everyone just talks like they're on the phone with somebody else. How you doing, Si?
No. I did not. It's the same color blue it's been for like a year now.
I think it's because the way your lighting is tonight.
Yeah, it's just dark like your soul.
It almost looks like it's an ash gray color now instead of a dark blue because of the way your lighting is.
I don't have time to paint my walls again. It's this till I die.
Ride to Hell Retribution, amazing game. It's on the Xbox. I don't think it was on anything else. Xbox 360. That is a phenomenal game. It may be on PC. I doubt it, but I think it's a 360.
I thought that hit PlayStation as well.
I don't think so. Otherwise, that's what I'm buying tomorrow with my no money in my wallet.
Platforms: Microsoft, Windows, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360.
Is Scepter saying, "Come on, amazing"? Yes, dude, amazing. Because it is the most awkward dialogue you will ever see in a game. There's intercourse with clothes on, and there's no music. It's just grunting and poorly animated bodies hitting each other. Yeah.
Mike's got all emo. He just needs his hair to drape down so he can just do this.
Yeah, I painted the room like my soul.
That's right.
It's the color of my skull, guys.
I just wanna die. Or
I can hear her laughing in the other room too.
Right. Or hang on. I'll give him $700,000 for the box right now. Thanks, Howie.
That's a deal or no deal joke.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh no. Scepter says people should just watch the cutscenes.
That is true because the bike riding is infuriating. The Quiet Man.
I've heard people recommend playing that game just because it's so abysmal. They need more people to experience how terrible this game is. Just how epically bad it is. It's kind of like how I kind of look at that game the same way people look at movies, right? Because you'll have a movie that's truly amazing and people will love it. And then you'll have a movie that's the worst schlock ever and people will love it.
Yeah.
For opposite reasons. Because they went there one way or another. It's the ones that land in the middle that reviewers hate because there's nothing to talk about. It's not interesting. It doesn't bring anything to the table. It doesn't do anything fun one way or the other, right? And so they hate it.
Yeah. Well, have you guys ever played The Quiet Man on PlayStation? That is another. Mwah! Well, you play as a deaf character, and you don't hear anything, and it has so all the cutscenes there's nothing. You don't hear anything. There's cutscenes, and there's also the worst fighting mechanics you'll ever see. You guys owe it to yourselves to try and play, or at least watch someone play The Quiet Man. Hell, you know what? I'm gonna do it. When I'm bad at games, another episode.
Hey, if I'm available to watch the stream when it comes up, I'm going to sit down and watch it.
It's incredible. And you're going to keep going, Panda, your volume, change the volume. No, you're just going to keep hearing the creak of my chair. It's silent.
No, there's a lot of games like that popped up for a long time before it became mainstream. Minecraft was another one. Right? It was kind of a niche game that people played who were into Legos but didn't collect actual Legos. So Minecraft was kind of their Lego kit, right? And then that exploded, particularly once Microsoft got their hands on it. Because Microsoft saw it growing, bought it, and then just boom, like the whole lid blew off that thing. They did everything with it.
Yeah.
Way more than the original developer, who almost, I think, was quoted multiple times. He almost regretted making it because when it became kind of soul-sucking kind of project that he thought it was going to be done with, right? That he did just for fun. And then exploded way before, and he just wasn't ready for it, right?
Yep.
Kind of like the Flappy Birds guy pulled his game down after a while because he's just like, no, this is not doing bad things, and I'm not okay with it. But by then, there were like 8 million clones, right?
Such a good game.
Bible Ventures on NES, more specifically known as
so
I never tried that.
Oh, I have it. It's wonderful.
One of the ones that I wish was good because I love the IP and I even enjoyed the cartoon was Beetlejuice. But that game looks awful every time I see it on the NES. And I'm like, if you go back and you take this IP that is not executed well, do something fun and crazy with it. And I mean, the wilder you get out there, the better, right? With something like Beetlejuice, the more zany and out there the idea is, the more it fits in that world. That was the beauty of that world that Tim Burton visualized on that, right? It was just that it was so out there and very his style for that time. And another one that I think, a game that never actually made it that I would love to see make it was they tried to do a Hellraiser game multiple times. And those are sort of almost
you made a video
pleasure
on that.
movies. And I think actually coming out with a good game for that would be amazing. None of them ever actually made it to market. How about how much I love Street Fighter 6, but none of my buddies are playing anything else? I played it and got stuck, but it's because it's a fighting game. What? I thought you liked 6, Vinny. I'd actually been enjoying 6. I haven't had a whole lot of time to sink into it.
Well, that gives you more time
to keep up with the buddy mine and Diablo. Do you what?
By the way,
this cartoon was amazing.
I just want to it was a great cartoon. I just want to make sure I'm not having a stroke. I am hearing a slight echo from one of you guys.
Are you? I've got my headphones on.
I have my headphones on too.
Anyway. It's very faint.
I don't know.
Now it's not here. Mike, say something?
Something.
Well, I'm hearing me. Yeah, I'm hearing me. That's weird. Anyway.
That is weird.
Okay.
Let me just double check any of my audio.
Games, Vinny?
No, that's all.
It's funny. Now that we have like 3D fighting games is like the norm.
Oak City Gamers is saying he's hearing an echo too, but I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, I definitely hear. It's not very loud. It's very subtle.
I don't hear it at all.
Yeah, I don't.
Scepter's saying it's Panda's feedback. It's me.
Hold on.
Yeah, but I don't hear you echoing. I don't hear
it at all. It's gone now. Whatever it was.
Okay.
How about now?
It's fine now.
I was about to say, I just went into my settings and I don't see it. Okay, Vinny doesn't have any echo. Born says you just got, voices in your head.
Yes.
Hi, by the way, Oak City and Heavy. By the way, I didn't officially say hi. I did acknowledge some of your comments. I just didn't say hi. So that's on me. It's good to see you guys, by the way. Good to see you guys in chat.
Yeah, the chat's kicking tonight.
The chat's going off on this one. This has actually been. I was wondering if we'd have a lot of dead air on this topic because I had like a handful, but not a major amount, and everybody's just kind of coming out with like various different games, which is great.
Yeah,
Nitrous Oxide looks awesome, by the way.
What's up, Yusuke? Good to see you, man.
Dude, this actually looks pretty cool. It's like F-Zero-esque.
Laminate configuration of Tetris style puzzle game. You have to remove rows from.
Oh, I like F-Zero.
Did that actually come out, Zombie? I know there was something like this that was in one of the games where you were like actually inside the cube and you're having to fight off like I forget what they're called. They had a specific name for the people from that multiverse. As you tried to reconfigure the cube from the inside to get back out, which sounded like a great idea. But did anything like that actually drop? I know they had like one, I want to say like browser game that they tried to do, but that was about it.
Hey, Mike, what? I think you probably played Grab by the Ghoulies, right? Was that a great game?
Oh,
I know
yeah.
people swear by it.
I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring that up as a guilty pleasure. So people didn't like it because when
very
it
rare,
was
different from the Rare.
Yes, because when Rare was acquired by Microsoft, everybody was thinking that, oh, now we're going to get a new Conquer, we're going to get a new Banjo-Kazooie, we're going to get Donkey Kong Country, which they've forgotten.
People don't understand how this works.
I didn't think they were going to. So those others, maybe Donkey Kong Country, I knew they wouldn't get.
Yeah,
that's a Nintendo IP through and through.
Exactly.
There's no way.
So when Microsoft acquired Rare, they were able to acquire Banjo and Conquer, but Donkey Kong was Nintendo. So Grab by the Ghoulies was one of the first games that they made for Xbox that they ported over. I loved it. It was different. It was just a different game.
I never played that one because it was kind of it kind of looked like it was a little bit in that horror vein, and I wasn't into those style games. I've since gotten more open to playing some of those.
Yeah, it's not really. It's almost
Ghoul
like
Patrol is a sequel, by the way.
Ghoul Patrol. Okay.
It's almost like that's a weird way to say this, but from an art style standpoint, it's almost like a Luigi's Mansion.
Okay.
But it's very. I mean, it was. I enjoyed it. Another one that people were lukewarm on, but I very much liked from Rare was Cameo.
I thought Cameo was a good game.
It was a solid game. Now,
I thought it was a little clunky compared to some of Rare's other work, but I thought the ability to be able to change into like the different creatures and stuff like that, was really fun.
So both of those should be in Game Pass. They're all also part of Rare Replay.
I think both of those had weak protagonists, at least on the cover.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
hi, Brian.
There we go.
See, Rev liked Cameo.
I liked Cameo. I thought Cameo had a great protagonist.
Cameo, and that's just how I pronounced it. Then it makes more sense.
Cameo,
but
yes, because the shape shifting. I thought she was a great protagonist. Grab by the Ghoulies, you don't. The protagonist is forgettable. It's just generic person.
I'm just saying on the box art, it's very generic looking. Like Cameo may play great and the character's great, but on the cover, I remember just being off, but like, oh, this looks like just a standard 3D model of a girl.
Yeah, and a couple of games on the 360 were like that.
Yeah.
Another one was Jade Empire had that.
Oh,
there was
Jade Empire though.
See, I never picked that one up, but I kind of wanted to. That was BioWare's
name
game on it, so that immediately gave it street cred back then.
Great game. Backward compatible now on the series. On Xbox One. Sudeki is another one that had a very generic looking.
Sudeki, why I know that one.
It was an Xbox, an OG Xbox game. So, but
the Sudeki looks awesome. See,
it would be nice to see Rare, and honestly, since Microsoft and Nintendo seem to have a pretty good working relationship, it would be nice to see something like Diddy Kong Racing make a comeback.
It would. The problem is that Rare isn't the Rare that was part of Rare Soft.
It's not, and their passion project is really just Sea of Thieves.
Right,
and
which was
what made me sad is when they announced the Monkey Island, and like half the crowd went, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, God.
Yeah, F you
put
all
this work in and get all the voice actors back to do this amazing showcase for this expansion for Sea of Thieves, and your player base had no idea who the hell any of these people are."
Which is funny because you can go back and play all of them in Game Pass because it's all Double Fine, so you can go play them and get caught up. And
you can play the first two.
Right. Well, and then there's the sequel that's on. The sequel's on Game Pass, Return.
Oh, Return? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I was about to say, technically there's 4 of those, but I don't think that the the original third one counts in the sequence, does it?
It does count.
It does.
It counts, but if you talk to Ron Gilbert, it counts in that they're including it, but really it's.
I haven't played the newest one. I kind of want to play it, but the art style's so weird for me.
You could play it without
the older art style.
Yeah, you could play it without having played the first two.
You can also watch it on my channel. The whole game if you want.
I still want to just like kind of.
I think you should play it.
I played through the other three. Yeah. I mean, I had to use guides heavily for the second one for sure.
It's
true
point and click. True point and click.
It is.
There's also Monkey Island that was in 3D. So there's like 5 or 6, and then there's also Tales of Monkey Island.
Right.
Oh, that's right. So, they did do a Tales version of that. I forgot about that. Candyland in outer space. Killer Instinct, I keep waiting for them to revisit. I would like to see them revisit that again. They did one entry in 2013. It was amazing. They built on it for a couple of years, and then they lost Iron Galaxy to Amazon. I have no idea what Amazon did with them. And they haven't found anybody to fill those shoes yet.
I bet you a good guilty pleasure. I've never played it. What is it called? Space Channel 9? Was it called, Mike? You would know
that was a great game. That was
what was it called? Space Channel? Was it
Space Channel 5?
Space Channel 5.
Yeah. I got ahead of
Space Channel 9, but it was on the Dreamcast.
Space Channel 5 was Dreamcast.
Yeah, I never played that one. That one didn't really appeal to me.
Well, it was a rhythm game.
One of the major reasons it didn't appeal to me. I'm not usually big in rhythm games.
So, and
don't get Nick on a dance floor.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea. It's a lot of. This is what I do.
It was very much. It was very much a Sega game. It was it had Sega written all over it. It was
I had definite
art style
vibes. I was glad it was around. It just wasn't for me. Choo Choo Rocket was another one I missed.
Yep, Choo Choo Rocket was
on the DS, I think.
Tetsuya Mitsuguchi was
on the Game Boy Advance.
This was the guy who produced like Sega Rally Championship. He did Rez
Radio. Oh God, that'd be so great to see that come back.
I think it is. I think that's one of the games. I think that and Crazy Taxi are two of the games that they are working on bringing back.
I know they had sort of a spiritual successor to Crazy Taxi on the Switch. I forget
it was called Taxi something or other. I know
Loco Taxi or something like that. I can't remember, but it was basically Crazy Taxi only without having the Crazy Taxi IP.
Yeah. So the thing that gave Space Channel 5 sort of a big kind of boost from a popularity standpoint was that Michael Jackson was involved in the game. And it even made and was even in it. First off, he loved Sega. He loved Sega. That's why you had a Moonwalker Genesis game, a Moonwalker arcade game. He actually wrote, I think, I have to go back and look. He wrote something musically for one of the Sonic games. I can't remember.
Sonic
3. He didn't have official credits for it.
He did not.
But that's since been confirmed.
He loved working with Sega, and so he did a lot of work with them for Space Channel 5, and he even appears in it. So
I don't know about Amplitude. Does anybody know Amplitude?
Yeah. Amplitude was a Sony game. Who made that? Hang on, I'll tell you in a second. It's along
I think
those
that was part of his conversation with Oak City Games, where I think it's
Harmonix.
Harmonix. They did Frequency. Yep, they did Frequency.
Yeah.
I think that was pre Rock Band. Or Harmonix was her Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the one that kind of set the stage for all those, at least as far as having peripherals that I remember, I think was Samba de Amigo. They came out just before Donkey Kong Country.
If you really want to go
Congo.
You really want to go back
I have that.
To get that pop-in music and those Konami games where you had the board that you hit stuff on. It was kind of the precursor to Dance Dance Revolution. It was just, I had pop-in music and I had the controller that it on the screen lit up stuff on the board and you had to hit it in rhythm.
Okay, I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
It was Konami.
The earliest one I could find when I was looking was probably Samba de Amigo that came with its own set of controllers, the maracas. And then shortly after that released, Donkey Kong Bongo came out. But I think they were working on Nintendo because they came out so close together. I think it was just kind of like a convergence of ideas.
You talking about the Donkey Kong one?
Yeah.
There was 3 that came out.
Well, yeah, there was
Conga, and then there was the Donkey Kong Beat, I think it was called. What the hell was that called?
Yeah, there was one that was more of a platformer. Okay, I've never even seen this. Pop in music.
Yeah, and
Jungle Beat.
Yes, yes, and the third one was Japan only, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's probably Donkey Konga, which was there was 1 and 2, and there may have been a third. I don't know.
And then there was Beat Mania, and that was around the Dance Dance Revolution time.
Yeah, that was one I was going to mention. Viva Pinata is definitely kind of one of those guilty pleasure games. It's kind of part farm simulator, part Animal Rancher kind of game. Me and my wife adored that game. We literally
that was
bought
also
it with the controller.
That was also that was a critically acclaimed game. The second one not so much, but the first one
I thought the second one was good too. I actually like how they expanded on it with the different environments and everything. I had a blast with both those. I even had a bit of fun with the DS one. There was one on the DS as well.
I wish, and that was a game that they made a Saturday morning. They made a Saturday morning cartoon of, and I used to love watching Viva Pinata. It was
I didn't even know they had a cartoon.
Yep.
I mean, I played 3 of the games.
Yep.
Because they had
on
Viva Pinata, then Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise, and then there was like a one on the DS. I forget what it was titled.
The one on the DS was Pocket Paradise, I think.
That's it. I think I've still got my copy of that somewhere.
Yeah, Oak City Gamers. The Maracas game was Samba de Amigo. That's
Samba de Amigo.
Yes.
Samba de Amigo.
Yep. And that was dropped in the arcade first and then translated over to the Dreamcast because Sega was still doing what Sega had always done, which is they would bring games out in the arcade and then they would port them over to the consoles.
Right.
In this case, they almost did a better job on the port than it was in the actual arcade.
Well, because they used the same Naomi board. So they used the Naomi board in the arcade, which was the same board as in the Dreamcast. They finally had gotten to a point to where they were able to use the same stuff in the arcade that they could in the home console.
Yeah.
And that
the
made
tech
a lot of difference.
It was way more low tech on the console because they had the sensor bar thing that was near your feet that you use. And they had some sort of like a magnetic sensor or something like that, I think, on the arcade version.
Trying to remember. I had it. I can't.
But it was it was so expensive that they couldn't do that on the console. Like it would cost more on the console to make it that way.
It was solid on the console. I'm trying to remember.
I didn't hear anybody complain about the Dreamcast. Now, when I was doing research on the video I did on it, I heard people complaining about it on the Wii, which I thought was funny because the Wii was built around motion controls, and yet it did motion controls on
because it was
less effectively.
It was the difference. I mean, Yuji Naka made the Dreamcast version. Gearbox made the Wii version. I mean, they were. It was redeveloped by Gearbox. They did not do a really great job of harnessing the controllers the way they should have.
Yeah, that was probably more it. Now they have a new one of those coming out this year, I think. Samba de Amigo. That's coming out on the Switch.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Yeah, I think it's supposed to hit this month sometime, I think.
I can't find my maracas and I've got the game up on the shelf, but I can't find my maracas.
You can't find the maracas or the pad? You didn't really need the pad. It just helped you.
The pad was there.
It helped you position so that you were staying in the right place.
Yeah.
But it didn't actually do anything.
I can't find my maracas, and
that sucks.
You just want to jam out, man. You just need your maracas.
It had some great songs.
Every now and then you need a sombrero and some maracas. I mean, what are you talking
Absolutely. It had some great songs on it.
No, a lot of the songs on that one were playful, and even a lot of the ones on the Donkey Kong Bongas. I mean, your pain tolerance may vary on some of the tracks, right? On how much tolerance you have for some of the simplistic beats on it, but they're still fun.
Have you ever listened to someone play that game though? Because that is torture. Just hearing that bang, 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 bang.
I've watched some videos for some of those, and it can get kind of bad.
So, I might do this. So, Samba de Amigo Party Central.
Someone must have been into Goat Simulator. A game like that just isn't a shot in the dark. That game got super popular when streamers got their hands on it. I think it was just designed as a laugh.
It was
goofy stuff with physics.
Everybody loved it,
and then people just took a shine to it.
Yep. All right, so coming out on Switch on August 29th is the Samba de Amigo.
Okay.
And then later on, it's coming out on MetaQuest. So I'm going to pick up the Meta version.
Well, the Quest version will probably be a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to pick that up.
That's probably
coming out in the fall. That's coming out in the fall.
Yeah, I could see that being a lot of fun.
That will be. And
I mostly use my VR headset for fitness right now. I've been big into the FedXR thing, particularly like the boxing routines.
Jacob, Jacob finally realized that I
realized you boosted it,
and he took it back. So I'm going to do my very best to make sure he doesn't take it to college in 2 weeks and forgets to pack it. So. Because otherwise, I'm just going to have to buy a MetaQuest 3.
The third version on it, with it being so thin like that, looks really good. I thought about upgrading just because of how much lighter it looks.
I mean, and even like the 2 is getting a power boost. I mean, they're not, just because the 3 is coming out doesn't mean they're abandoning 2, and everything is back forth compatible.
Yeah, I didn't think they were gonna fully abandon it, but I don't know. I was on the fence for a little while because I wasn't using my headset for much, right?
Which is the right move.
And that was about all I did. Now I basically just do like FedXR on it. And I'll do that like once to 2 times.
Which I would like to get into on my off days, when I'm not at the gym and I need a half hour, just to do stuff. So
yeah.
Yes,
I need to try some just actual games on it and just see what I find. I just haven't done much into games on it.
Okus speaking my language.
I can say that Dreamcast. Oh, there's Sir X, man. Good to see you, man. I can see where people get that from.
Well, because it literally.
They were running out of the license though, and Microsoft wasn't really keen on renewing it, and they were really looking to do the console.
The biggest issue was that the games that were designed with Windows CE were not as good as the games that were designed with Sega's internal libraries. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
But it was really funny because and I have them both. The Japanese version of the Dreamcast on it says designed for Windows CE.
Yeah, I know.
And the US version says compatible with. So Microsoft, there was almost a time when Microsoft was going to kind of help them build.
Well, Microsoft was in talks with a couple people. They went into talks with Nintendo. I think they went into talks with Sega at one point. I don't think they were ever in talks with Sony because Sony just didn't want anything to do with them.
Microsoft went in and tried to acquire Nintendo. That's what happened there. They got laughed out of the room.
And kind of justifiably so.
Yes.
I don't really like that as a fit personally, right? Like,
right. But that's what they
was
were
it
going
on
to do.
Episode 1 or Episode 2? We talked about Nintendo and the console agnostic stuff.
It might have been the second one
on Master Debaters. Is it the second one, Panda?
I think that's the first one.
Is it the first one?
I can check real fast.
Okay, because I don't want to go into that conversation and ruin that part of your video that hasn't launched yet.
Yeah.
Well, I think everyone should just watch both.
Well, I agree. They should watch both.
Oh.
But
you can talk about it here.
We were talking about the homogeny of one game console and no exclusives, right? Because Potion was arguing against exclusives. Well, when we had a big row about that, and one of the things that I thought would make it a bad fit, at least when
it was episode 5, it was the first part.
Yeah, with Sony and Microsoft, is a lot of Nintendo games work because they're on Nintendo's platform, right? Certain games work because they're on that platform, and when people go to that platform, they're predisposed to want games of that kind of type, right? If you took some of those games and you throw them on an Xbox or you throw them on a PlayStation, I don't think they would do well, because that's not what people buy those consoles for.
Not then, but I would argue that maybe now you see
maybe a little bit more now, but I mean, you're still looking at like your core audience wants stuff like The Last of Us. I mean, how many times are they going to remaster that thing and sell it in the billions?
Yeah, they're about to remaster the second
Halo
one.
And Gears of War and stuff like that, right? They want that kind of gritty, more realistic game type. There aren't as many people that your core audience there still wants those games. They're getting more open with Game Pass to the indie games and the more artsy games and the more different style games. They're getting more open to it because it's free, effectively. And so it's opening their eyes a little bit to what's possible, and that the art style doesn't dictate your fun, right? You don't need a super realistic art style to have fun. And sometimes it's the antithesis of fun to have a gritty, dark art style, because it's not fun. It doesn't fit with what the story you're trying to tell or the world you're trying to sell, right? It just doesn't work. Like if you took Hi-Fi Rush and you gave it the Gears of War treatment, it would be awful. Like
it would be awful.
It would be terrible. It needs to be cartoony and bright and poppy and fun. It needs to be that way.
Yep.
So I'm way behind on
on
comments. Okay.
Well, Oak City,
it kind of got hacked, but there were other things going wrong with the Dreamcast. There was a lot of stuff going on with the Dreamcast.
Well, not wrong, but their issue. I mean, their issues we all know stem back to the 32X. I mean, it's where it all started.
It's more than the 32X, but that was part of it. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's where it turned. I think that's where I always talk about. That's where the turn really happened.
Between that and the Saturn.
Yes, because the 32X predated the Saturn, at least in the U.S.
Well,
32X came out
technically.
Well, it came out. So no, the 32X came out at the same time the Saturn was coming out in Japan.
Yeah, it came.
And that was
the 32X launched one day before the Saturn launched in Japan, and we
Japan,
had it for like a year here, but it got no support because they all jumped ship to work on stuff in the Saturn, and they totally screwed that launch here too.
Yes, they did. I know. I will never forget it, but I remember. I mean, I loved getting the Saturn early, and my when I do my Saturn retro gaming nights on every other Monday that I'm not here, I remind people that the Saturn I play on is my launch Saturn from 1996. It still freaking works.
There's nothing wrong with those consoles. There's still PlayStation 2s that work. There's still 360s that work, but those are fewer and far between because they all tend to proliferate.
Oh.
Yeah, the 360 was the biggest chunk of them all. Like that.
Honestly, once they revamped it and put the HDMI port in it, from that point on, those were solid. But that was late in the life. The Elite was actually solid.
The Elite was a great
The disk drive still work?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a couple 360s and disk drives.
Yeah, I've got an Elite, and it works fine.
Yeah.
The thing always got me was this. We talked about this on Twitter. The one big problem that I can't get is I can't get a reliable Sega CD that's cheap, because the lasers in the Sega CD always blew out. Those were horrible. But my launch Saturn, my launch Dreamcast, and my Saturn's modded on top of that. It's got a switch on the side to do import versus North America. So
Sir Smith says the Dreamcast's bigger problem was people could play bootleg disc.
Yeah.
All the time. So they were losing money. And that was part of it. But there was also they were in a big financial bind around that time too. The Dreamcast came out at a time where they needed a win. They needed a console because their arcades were hemorrhaging money. They had like 9 to 10 products running concurrently. Most of them weren't making any money.
They ran out of
Sega was out of money. They were basically broke. And the Dreamcast was a Hail Mary to try to save them as a company.
And it was fine for a while until two things. Until they ran out of parts. Remember, they had they came out gangbusters at the time.
Later, Oak City. Good to see you, man. Thanks for popping in and chatting.
Yeah, and great knowledge base on that. You're speaking my language. EA not supporting them was a big, huge problem. I mean, you're right. There
were some discussions on that because there were some arguments because they had just bought all these studios to make Sega Sports a big thing on the Dreamcast, and EA wanted to be the only one publishing sports games on there, and they're like, we're not doing that.
Yep.
And then EA said, fine, we're not dropping anything on there.
I'm trying to find the evolution. What they dropped
down there was probably just as good as what EA would have dropped on there, if not better, because it was first party, and they knew the hardware.
And it always was. I mean, to this day, the NFL 2K series is still better than Madden, period.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to find the evolution of guilty pleasures into
Dreamcast. I know, it got derailed.
Yeah.
But no, everyone seems to be loving it. You should continue.
I'm running out of guilty pleasure games because a lot of the guilty pleasure was older stuff like the full motion video stuff.
Well, like, did you like probably Bugs might be a guilty pleasure. Clockwork Knight may be a guilty pleasure.
Well, so Clockwork Knight was highly regarded. Bug was like a mid-level review game. I love Bug and Bug 2, and those soundtracks were phenomenal. The Saturn, okay, all right, I got one, and only because the PlayStation version was so much better looking, but for me, the Saturn version of Wipeout was my guilty pleasure because it played better. Even though it was half the frame rate, for some weird reason, that half the frame rate made the controls a little better, and the Saturn version used the 3D analog controller. And at the time, the PlayStation didn't have an analog stick. It had just the D-pad.
I could say having an analog stick would be a big advantage on something like that. So I can totally see that. Oh. And I'm going through the list of games that I have on Steam just because it's here to see if there's anything here.
You ever play Wipeout on VR? That is a rite of passage.
Yes.
That seems like a vomit comment.
That is a rite of passage.
Yes.
Once you get past it, though, it is awesome.
Oh my God, it is amazing. And the Wipeout Omega collection just on its own is just amazing. It's one of my favorite because there were games. All right, so another guilty pleasure game on the Saturn was Cyber Speedway, which was a Wipeout type game, but it had a soundtrack from a band that you never heard of before called the Bygone Dogs. And you could go and try to look them up, and you can't find them. But they were plastered, But the music was great. So that was one.
See, a more modern take for me would be something like Sonic Frontiers. Most people did not care for that game. I thought it was actually kind of fun. It had a lot of rough edges, but I thought it was overall fun.
The latest 3D
the newest
one,
one.
yes.
The newest one.
So Sega, at least in their coming out of their press, has said that they sold more of that game than they were anticipating.
Really?
So
because it got bagged on by so many people, but I don't think it's that bad.
I haven't played it yet.
I mean, it's got some serious rough edges. I mean, trying to take Sonic and put him in an open world, it's going to have some speed bumps. I'm sorry, it just is.
No pun intended.
Yeah. I mean, literal and figurative. Thought Mike was going to say the PS version over the Saturn version.
Oh, D. Wait. Okay.
Yeah.
Sarkman says this is the only place you can play the Saturn was the only place you could play the true version of X-Men versus Street Fighter.
As long as you had the 4 meg RAM card, because that gave you that gave it all the boost. You know what? I'll give you another one because it's sticking on the Saturn. Saturn had a lot of guilty pleasure games. Street Fighter the movie.
I have that.
Yeah, I could see a lot of people considering that one a guilty pleasure. While we're on fighting games, I'd say any of the Dead or Alive games because they have a huge stigma for not being good games, but I think they're solid fighting games.
Oh, yeah. Well, the newest ones are Dead or Alive 3 was it 3 or is it 2 on the Xbox 360? I think Dead or Alive 2.
I want to say it's 3 because I think 1 and 2.
Look, it's over. I've got it over on that. And I have DOA.
2 was on Dreamcast.
Yeah,
so it's got to be 3.
And I have DOA Extreme on the OG Xbox. I had gotten it in a one of my video games monthly boxes when I had those coming, and that I think that was underrated.
I think it's a good fighting series.
Yeah, I said absolutely solid.
Stuff out. You got DN Street Fighter, right?
Yeah, there we go. Now I'll give you a little more trivia. I never played
the Street Fighter, the movie, the video game. I never played that one.
It is clunky as crap, but it
did not look very smooth.
It wasn't. However, the better version is the import version. The Japanese version is the better version that is closer to the arcade.
Sarexman says, I have the action replay for my Saturn.
Oh, yeah, so you could play imports. And you could also, that actually acted as the 4 meg RAM card so that you could get the better animations and stuff out of. It was X-Men versus Street Fighter. There's Street Fighter Alpha, I think was Saturn. Let me see.
Oh, here's another one that's a mobile game, but if you actually buy it on Steam, there's no ads and there's no mobile.
Alpha 2 and 3 and 0.
The Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle. It's a puzzle game where you're trying to navigate Jason to where he doesn't either slide off in the water and die or land in fire and die, and you can kill all the campers. And every now and then you get these really amazing, like, cutesy death animations because it's this kind of chibi Jason and chibi characters. It's actually pretty brilliant. It's quite a bit of fun. There's like 100 stages or something ridiculous in it. But if you get a chance to pick it up on Steam, it's totally worth at least giving it a shot on Steam. I think it was really cheap. I think I got
never knock All-Star Cheerleading Squad. One.
You know what? I'll admit I picked up. Was it the SNK Heroines game that I need to give it a shot on Steam? It came out on Switch, and I never picked it up there because I don't have a good control. I don't have a good fight stick for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have one that works for PC. But they took all the SNK characters that weren't female, made them female, and threw them into like a tag fighter. I'm like, I'll give it a shot. It kind of looks fun. So that kind of fits into like a guilty pleasure. Like one of the ones my wife plays a lot that I guess you could kind of classify as 7 Days to Die. She adores that game. She played the crap out of that game. Still does.
Now, here's the question. When we talk about like Dead or Alive or Rumble Roses like that, what if there was a great fighting game, but it's all male physics, if you understand what I'm saying? Like hardcore male physics. Would you be able to? Now, as a guy who plays Mount Your Friends, I'm okay with it. I think it's hysterical.
That's true, you do. I've seen videos of that game, and I'm like, what the hell?
The 2D one. The 2D version. Best game on Xbox.
I don't know.
My guilty pleasure.
It would depend. Yeah. I feel like we've got plenty of games like that with all the WWE games. I feel like it's why Rumble Roses worked.
No, there's no male physics the way that the Rumble Roses has it. I'm saying
that's because guys wear cups.
Not in this one. Not in this game. This is just like, I mean, jaw-droppingly awkward and
like this conversation. Got it.
Very distracted.
Yeah. It got very quiet in the chat.
I don't know if the gameplay looked fun, I might give it a shot. I might have to, if there was a slider to tone down the jiggle physics, I might have to use it.
It's always stuck on maximum awkward.
Oh my god!
It's always stuck on put that away before you hurt somebody. Yeah. Searchman says the Dreamcast was the only place you could actually play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 back then. I think that eventually got released on the PS2, but originally, yes, I think it launched originally there, and I don't think it had another release anywhere else until the PlayStation 2 came out. Because I think it launched there before the PlayStation 2 dropped. If
it was on PlayStation 2, and then eventually went on 3, etc. So it was also
I think its first release though was Dreamcast.
I think it probably was Dreamcast.
Yeah. But no, there's all sorts of games that kind of fit in this, but I feel like we've kind of thoroughly explored this for a little bit, and it is getting a bit late.
Yes.
Well, we can't end it on male jiggle physics.
Why not? What do you got against male jiggle physics? What's wrong with you?
I'm looking forward to it.
I was at the gym today.
You were giving some jiggle physics to everyone else on the floor there, Mike.
That's right. I had my extra squats today.
Oh no! Mike's learning
read
to
big block
properly.
Read big
block. I see it. I see it. I see it.
I think those are dongle physics. Final boss in Panda's dream game is dressed in New Year's outfit named the Ball Drop.
You're damn right. I am very comfortable in my very confused sexuality.
Panda's often confused on more things than just that. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to probably wrap it up here. It's closing in on 10:30. It's getting late for most of the panel, except for me, who gets to stay until probably 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning today. So let's go around and check and see what everybody's kind of got going on in the channel. Panda, what have you got going on? I think you've got a new Master Vader's launching this week.
Yep, with this guy over here, and Ares and Potion and Luke. That is July 20th. That is I believe that's a Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do the chat, so it's pre-recorded, but we're all there. We have a nice chat there. Also recently did, for all you Indiana Jones fans out there, I did a Fate of Atlantis, which was an old LucasArts point-and-click adventure game, and I cut it like a movie. So if you just wanted to sit down and watch, you're not into those old point-and-click games, you could actually just watch it like a movie. So check that out too on my channel.
That's actually kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
The real benchmark.
I had it down to an hour and 20. It's an hour and 20 edit, and it's usually about 5 or 6 hours. So I got it down to 1 hour and 20.
Nice. Mike, what you got going on?
Oh, let's see. Tomorrow is a brand new NLG show at 9:30. We're going to there's a couple things going on. Of course, it's almost over. It's almost over. It's not. It's over, yeah. No, there's a little more left to go in the UK.
Okay.
But it's getting freaking
Are we talking about the Peels thing with the whole thing that we don't really want to talk about here? That thing?
Exactly. Okay. And then the Sony thing. And then but there is a change to, so Xbox Live is being retired,
turning into Core, right?
Turning into Game Pass Core, and we're going to talk about that because I think it exposes. So Panda, sit down for a second, because it does expose a problem that I think Microsoft's going to start having as people start to see the different tiers next to each other. Kind of more of a PR issue, but it's kind of, people are going, wait a minute, why am I paying more to get the same as the people on PC? So there's a little bit of that going on. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about Exoprimal, which is a great freaking game that came out from
I'm very
Bandai.
confused on that game. I feel like that's going to become a guilty pleasure game because it looks like a lot of fun, but it also looks really limited as well.
It depends on what you're trying to get out of it. It's a neat PvE
Moldova
game.
hasn't jumped in.
In Moldova, right?
Moldova sucks.
Right. We have not heard from Prince Hakim and the island of Zamunda. They have not. Mike, am I leave work to hang out with you on the show tomorrow? I'll let you know.
He's trying to do voice to chat, man. You got to translate.
He's also trying to ditch work so he can come on the show.
He's trying to get the heck out of work.
Yeah, Back from the Dead and 108 Dragons is going to be on tomorrow night because Game Pass and stuff like that. So we got a lot to talk about tomorrow. And then my continuing gameplay streams.
Yeah, it's good. I was waiting for you to talk about this. Yeah.
I have now settled into Thursday night, most Friday nights, and every other Monday when I'm not here. So Monday is back to being my Monday night retro, where I'll pick some, Sega CD, 32X, Saturn, PlayStation, and plus tomorrow night I'm going to bring up the Antstream stuff. Antstream is coming hard. They're coming to Xbox, and they are coming with 1,300 retro games, and
like $90, right?
Yeah, and for a lifetime pass, and they are introducing PlayStation. So
Antstream's been on the VCS for a while,
which I have been playing. I play it. No,
they've been kind of interesting. I didn't want to play through a browser though, so this might be
no. Antstream on the VCS. Antstream has an app.
Okay.
And it is rock freaking solid. I've been playing it on the VCS, but I've been kind of gaining coins and using coins. I haven't done the subscription, but I'm thinking about getting that lifetime pass because it allows you to play it on PC, on mobile, on Xbox, on the VCS, and I can. So I'm going to talk about that. But I'm going to start doing that in the stream. So basically, I've got multiple streams going on, and they're all on Rumble.
Hot damn, and killing it, dude. He's killing. His numbers are embarrassing to all the rest of us, dude. Like embarrassing.
They're embarrassing to my YouTube channel.
Yeah,
and you know what? and you know what? A lot of my YouTube folks, my good YouTube folks, have moved over there, and I'm just gonna say it. I get less harassment over there. And I'll just I'll just leave it there.
You're going to get less harassment just because of the platform. It's kind of like doing a fresh start, right?
Yep.
And if you can pull the same numbers and do a fresh start at the same time, how is this a loss? Right?
I can't tell you how or why, but I'm getting better numbers.
But like
I've got a Dirt 5 stream that Peter and I did 2 weeks ago that damn near did 1,000 views.
Yeah,
a stream.
I think part of it comes down to the fact, we'll talk about this off.
Yeah.
Advertise your stuff, and then we'll talk.
I just choose to believe it because Mike is that good. That's what I want. That's how I believe.
Oh, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. No, they're actually curating us very, very well right now. There are times when I'm streaming and we're on the front page. So I mean, I'm actually, what they're doing is they're not playing favorites. If you're live, they will, and they see you, they'll put you up. Where
they even
YouTube
have contests for people doing live stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, I am one really good set of NLG. If I could get everybody who regularly comes to the NLG show on YouTube, if I can get them to come to Rumble, then I'm honestly probably gonna abandon the YouTube channel.
Amen.
There is the Rumble link to Original Next Level Gaming. If you guys haven't gone there and checked it out, go and check it out.
Panda Sub 2000 is also there. Join me and the other 16 people.
Is better.
And yes, and that's the other thing. The quality of the video is better. And I've got
there is Panda Sub 2000 on there.
And where's yours?
I don't have a channel built.
Oh, I thought you said
I was going to, and I never got around to it. I've been really bad about doing. Dude, it's lately. It seems like I either get sucked into Diablo 4, or something happens around the house, or work is weird. Like I was in Window 2 nights last week, where I was up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and so by the end of the week, I was literally punch drunk. It was almost. I almost should have done a stream playing Ninja Gaiden because it was so comically bad how bad I was playing that like I was just confused. Like stage 1 was somewhat difficult. I was so punch drunk by the end of the week. It was weird. But I haven't brought myself to like try to do streaming because my week has gotten so weird, and I've had a video that I think I've got the voiceover done on it for like a new game mechanics, and I've done no editing, like none. Like I'm not getting to it because either things get shifted around on my weekend, or people are over at my house on the weekend, or I'm up all night and then I'm behind, or I get sucked into a game, or something comes up. The getting sucked into a game is my own fault, but everything else is just life, right? So I enjoy Panda's long day between videos, Rumble, even more. It's a long delay on YouTube.
Wait, I think I've been putting out a lot of stuff lately. I mean, granted, it's not my big stuff, but I've actually been putting out a lot of videos, right?
You actually have. You've been doing.
Yeah, you have. Your content, yeah.
A lot of stuff. Not good, but stuff.
I like your gameplay. I like your gameplay videos. I like when you're commentating over top of like. Some of my favorite stuff was when you were doing the dating simulators.
Yeah, we got to get back into that. You want to come on?
I've been considering doing a move to both Odyssey and Rumble, quite frankly.
No, so we have to talk offline, Nick, because people like you and me, like, so unfortunate with Rumble is just no. And I've been wanting off YouTube since day one, but it's just unfortunately it really is preferring live streams right now.
Rumble definitely prefers live streams.
Yeah,
YouTube seems to prefer controversial content.
Right now. YouTube is everything.
Right. That seems to be the big push right now.
Although I think it depends too on how big your channel is, because I have seen there are people that are uploading videos that are getting 10 to 20,000 views.
Yes.
But you have to. I think you have to build your channel up first with the live streaming, and once people are going to your channel daily, then they'll go back and they'll see. Because I'm starting to now slowly get people that are watching the pre-recorded stuff that I moved over.
Okay, that's good to hear. Yeah.
And again, it's kind of a slow burn.
Yeah, but the main problem with Rumble is finding stuff that's just pre-recorded, uploaded stuff. Agreed. It's not featured on their page very well, so people have to be regularly checking out your channel.
And there's no organization of it either. That's the problem.
There isn't.
Yes, there isn't. And I know there's still. I did find somebody who said that they are still working on playlists. They do want to bring playlists.
They need that.
But one thing that they did do that they changed recently that I like is if you go to, like, they have a gaming section, which I really like. Like they have categories, so you can click on gaming videos, and they have it now tabbed off as live streams, recorded streams, so you can go see people's VODs, videos, and categories. So you could click on videos, and you could actually see those videos of people, that people have. So they're starting to figure it out a little bit. I think it's going to be a while before it really. I mean, they're starting to get some big YouTubers going over there that are gamers. So it's common. And the nice thing is I feel like and that's why I'm hoping you get a channel up there soon too, Nick. We can grow with it. Whereas in YouTube, I'm done trying.
Hey, Matthew Barrows. You sort of missed most of it. We talked about various different guilty pleasure games, games that you play that you may not really acknowledge you play. Like we mentioned Rumble Roses. We mentioned a couple of mobile games, Dead or Alive, Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball, All-Star Cheer Squad came up.
1 and 2.
Just various different games that maybe you like that a lot of people don't necessarily like. It was a fun conversation that got derailed into a lot of Dreamcast talk for about 20 minutes or so, and then eventually came back on topic and then went on to YouTube as a platform, which is kind of where we're at now as we were starting to wind down the stream. So thank you for popping in and checking the live stream out. I think I've seen you around the channel a little bit, but I don't think I've seen you on a live stream. So thank you for popping in. But I think we're going to continue our discussion offline. I might get with some of you other guys that are curious, like Zombie. I'll get with you and have this talk with you too once we kind of have more conversations about yourself.
The after show is shirtless, correct? I just want to make sure we're ready for that, right?
Do what?
The after show we're doing, I got the memo, is shirtless, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Completely.
Sure.
Oh,
whatever.
Right,
that's fine.
Physics. All right.
Matthew says my stuff isn't niche. I mean, I'm glad you like it. I think it's kind of niche for YouTube on general, because it's a history channel, and history channels are they some of them really work. Some of them, like mine, start to work.
Anybody that says Dreamcast stuff sounds great to me, that's new friend.
But it's like, how much for the shirt to come off?
I'm ready.
All right, guys. What's going on my channel is I dropped a new video today talking about arcade mod boards, enhancement boards that were designed to kind of enhance the arcade experience, help the operators earn more revenue, and kind of give the gamers a new gaming experience so that they wouldn't get as bored with the cabinet or would kind of refresh the cabinet, and how that was an early part of the arcade history. So that's up for your perusal. I also have a something coming out from a member who just recently joined a couple weeks ago, who asked me to do something on the Eclectic Pro Play Arcade. So that's kind of a cool cabinet thing that I did not think of until they had mentioned it, but it was basically an arcade cabinet for your home console. And it wasn't available in too many places. I remember seeing one in a Toys R Us, and it was at home place I saw one. So I did some digging on that, and that one will be coming out on Wednesday. Nice. So that's going to be the oddity for this week. So kind of a pre-advertisement for that one. I think it's a fun device. And it honestly, they have more variations on it than I thought they had, quite frankly, when I started digging into it. So it was kind of a cool thing to kind of dig into and look at. And it was kind of like a arcade 1-up before arcade 1-up, really. So that should be kind of fun to look at and check out and see if any of you guys ever remember seeing these when you actually see the cabinet. Because I honestly had no idea until I started looking at it. And then one moment I saw it, I go, oh my God, I saw that when I was a kid. And I really wanted it. So that'll be coming up on Wednesday. I am continuing to kind of try to carve out time because I want to work on a game mechanics episode on physics.
Ooh.
Game physics and stuff like that.
I was hoping for the male physics part, but I'm
Dongle physics were online when I wrote my script. Had I worked on the script after this, maybe.
I can't wait. Geek Story presents Dong Physics.
So we'll see. Intro music reminds me of an old website back in the day called Gamers, and I think it's awesome.
It sounds like that's fitting.
Subscriber recommendations for oddity videos. Yeah. If you just put a comment in there of what you would like to see in an audio video, or you have a moment or something like that, and you put it in a comment, I try to take notes of all those, and I try to give credit to the people who gave me the idea when I do the video. I have people send them to me on, some people send them to me on Twitter, some people put comments in videos. So if you have an idea or a recommendation, then feel free to put it in there. I always say I'll look into each one of them, and I have a very long list now because one person was very prolific with giving me ideas. So I have a long list. So if I don't get to it for a while, it's because I'm unburying myself from my abnormally long list of oddities right now. I'm short on moments ideas. I am not short on oddity ideas right now. There's so many oddity ideas that have gotten thrown my way, which is great. I love it when you guys give me ideas for stuff. One, it helps me from having to like independently think, which is, God, why would I want to do that?
Did you do the Game Boy printer yet?
Yes. Yes, it is. Well, I did the Game Boy camera that mentioned the printer itself because it kind of came as a package deal, right? Yeah. So yeah, that was in that one. The only one, the one I haven't done for Game Boy that I need to get around to, that's on my intro, is the Game Boy Sonar. I
no idea what that is.
It was literally a sonar for fishing on the Game Boy.
Nice.
Wow.
What's up, Intelligent Gamer?
That had to be Japan only, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Japan only. Let's see. My Twitter.
I don't think is there ever an idea in Japan where someone goes, I think we've went too far.
My Twitter is actually at Cash Geek because that was my original channel and that's what I made my handle. So that's where you can find me on there. So if you add me on there, I'll add you back, and then we should be able to message back and forth. Because I've got a couple people I've made friends with on YouTube that have sent me ideas, and they'll either send me a video. That's where the Sega Alls thing came from. Dreadpool sent me that one. And I would look that in. I'm like, a gaming computer. And there's another one I found while I was doing that I may do a video on because Sega technically made the fastest gaming computer. And I say that in quotes because they literally put it on wheels and gave it like a Sonic makeover. So it's literally like an RC car that's a gaming computer. It's like the goofiest advertisement thing ever, but I love it. Is Dreamcast the only console with a fishing rod? It might be. I haven't done one on that yet. It's the only one I remember, but I think so. And I've been putting that one off too. That one's on my list.
I've got to imagine the Wii. It's got to happen.
Everybody who popped in, no matter how late or how early, even if you just popped in to say hi, we always appreciate it. We love how lively this chat is. We love that you guys come in here and hang out with us.
You're right. It wasn't made. The difference
wasn't specific. It
Sega
used the
made
controller.
The controller.
Yeah. Because the Switch has one too. But I see your point. I get
it.
Yeah.
But it was third party.
Mm-hmm. The only American designed Nintendo Game & Watch was a best. What?
Accessory.
I'll have to look into that one. That sounds interesting. The Xbox has one, the Wii, and the Switch. If you mean force feedback, Dreamcast US only. I think we're talking about like the first one, not the only one, because I know there's been more since.
No, the first one was the Dreamcast. That's
the first one is that what I can recall is the Dreamcast. I haven't done any digging, but that's the first one I can recall.
Hold on.
I hope this derails into fishing accessories, please.
It just happened because
there's one.
I know why this one happened. This one makes sense why this happened because Matthew was asking if I took suggestions and stuff, and that got us on oddities, and then here we go.
I'm kidding.
And I mentioned the sonar, so that brought us into fishing. So
there is one for the Xbox 360.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, not made by Microsoft.
Fishing game that they advertised at one point too.
The Rapella, the Bass Pro Shop. And again, not made by or endorsed by Microsoft.
No, I think it was like a Cabela's thing because they were making all sorts of like fishing and hunting games at the time. And so
yeah, but okay, name another console that has a game called Seaman. And so
no one
wins again.
Dreamcast. Everybody saw that and went,
man.
This was lost in translation, wasn't it?
You say Seaman, I say.
And on that note, we're going to call it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's been a lovely evening. Happy gaming.
Have a good night. I'm going to start.
Yeah, I've done it.